Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something that just exploded the moment it happened. The September 10th, 2025 assassination of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University.
A huge event.
Huge. But our focus today isn't just the event itself. It's more about that collision, between the forensic facts and, well, the storm of viral speculation that kicked off instantly.
Almost in real time, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, this was without a doubt a political earthquake. For his supporters, millions of them, Kirk wasn't just some commentator. He was like the voice for this rising movement.
Very specific focus, too. Christian nationalist, anti-progressive left, really tapping into campus culture wars.
Right, mobilizing huge youth audiences.
Mm-hmm.
So his death wasn't just tragic. It was immediately framed by his base as, well, a martyrdom. It just poured gasoline on the national polarization.
Extreme polarization, instantly.
But almost faster than people could process the shock, the whole thing got tangled up in online controversy. Grainy cell phone videos started flying around.
Oh, yeah. Impossible to avoid if you were online.
Especially that one clip, you remember the title, New Video Evidence Changes Everything. That piece of amateur footage, basically, became ground zero for this huge online debate, focusing almost obsessively on things people thought didn't line up with the first official reports.
Right. Perceived inconsistencies.
So the real problem we're tackling here, the mission for this deep dive, is to bridge that gap. The gap between what people expect to see, often based on, movies and TV.
The Hollywood effect.
Exactly. And what forensic science actually tells us. We want to give you the shortcut through all that noise. We'll compare the specific viral claims, especially this whole missing exit wound thing, against the documented forensic facts. We'll look at history, too, and maybe the psychology behind why these theories catch fire.
Okay, let's unpack it. Where do we start?
Let's start with the baseline, the official record. What did the Utah County prosecutors actually establish?
Right. It's crucial to ground this in the physical evidence first, because, as you said, the online noise aims to create doubt immediately.
Yeah.
And despite how fast the speculation spread, the prosecutors were actually quite quick and very clear. They laid out what they described as a clear single-shooter narrative based on the evidence found.
Okay, so what are those core facts? The shooter, the weapon, the charges.
The individual identified is a 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson. He's facing aggravated murder charges, among others, and prosecutors have already stated they intend to seek the death penalty.
Okay.
Critically, they recovered a bolt-action rifle at the scene, and forensics confirmed Robinson's DNA was on the trigger mechanism.
So, a direct link. Weapon, suspect, DNA. Right from the start.
Yes, that link was established very early. The weapon, the suspect, the immediate forensic findings all pointed in one direction, according to the prosecution.
And what about the shot itself, the mechanics of it, the trajectory, where it came from? What's the official finding there?
They've been very consistent on this point. One shot fired. They did a trajectory reconstruction, which indicated the shot originated from a rooftop, roughly 200 yards behind the stage, and slightly offset.
Behind and offset. Okay.
Kirk was struck in the neck, collapsed instantly on stage. He was pronounced dead at the hospital not long after.
So the official position is really anchored in that physical evidence. One shooter, one shot, specific origin point, ballistics, DNA. It's not based on trying to interpret those shaky videos.
Precisely. That's the prosecution's stance. It's built on the recovered evidence. But as we know, the public conversation, fueled by those instantly shared clips, almost completely bypassed the forensic details. It zoomed right in on tiny visual details, often from really poor quality footage.
And that's where things get really interesting, isn't it? Because the moment the official story started coming out, this parallel narrative just exploded online, completely contradictory in some way.
Yeah, fueled by intense online scrutiny.
And that scrutiny seemed to zero in on two main claims, two things viewers insisted proved the official story wrong.
Right. Two core arguments emerged.
The first one was about geography, wasn't it? That Kirk was supposedly shot from behind in a way that contradicted the rooftop shooter idea. Now, hold on. If the official account says the shooter was behind and offset on a roof, why did people see that as a contradiction?
That really points to a misunderstanding, I think. Or maybe a deliberate misinterpretation of the stage layout and the shooter's position. The official account is that the shot came from behind and above the victim.
So the claim that was supposed to disprove the official account.
Ironically, it actually aligns perfectly with the prosecution's trajectory report.
Right.
The shooter was behind him. So that first major contradiction wasn't actually a contradiction at all.
Okay, so it was really the second claim that lit the fuse.
Oh, absolutely. That's the one that truly weaponized the public's suspicion. The claim that there was no visible exit wound in any of the videos.
Right. And the logic, flawed or not, went something like this. A high-powered rifle must create a visible exit wound. If we don't see one in the video, it's impossible, therefore.
Therefore, cover-up. Or a different weapon was used. Or the shot came from somewhere else entirely. The lack of the expected visual became proof of deception.
We really need to dig into that fixation. Why the exit wound? Why does that specific detail become the focal point almost every time there's a high-profile shooting?
It's a potent mix. Part human psychology, part, frankly, misinformation shaped by popular culture. Most people, unless they've studied forensics or ballistics, have this expectation built up over years.
From movies, mostly. Action films.
Exactly. Decades of cinema have conditioned us to believe that any hit from a high-powered rifle results in this, spectacular, always visible exit wound, a big, bloody, obvious hole.
The clean, dramatic exit we see on screen.
Precisely. And that expectation gets dialed up even more for a shot to the neck. People assume that has to be instantly catastrophic, visually dramatic on exit. So when amateur video, which, let's remember, is often blurry, shaky, low resolution.
Yeah, like 480p maybe if you're lucky.
No. Right. When that footage fails to deliver the expected spectacle, the immediate reaction for many isn't, oh, the camera couldn't capture it, or maybe physics works differently. It's suspicion. The missing detail becomes proof of a lie.
Proof of a hidden truth, authorities hiding something.
Correct. And this is where the scientific counter-narrative becomes so vital for you, the listener, to grasp. Yeah. Because the core forensic truth is simple. The absence of a visible exit wound in a low-quality video clip proves absolutely nothing.
Okay.
The reality of bullet trauma is messy. It's chaotic, incredibly variable, and far, far more complex than just a neat entry and a huge exit.
So let's get into that science. The public expects that clean pass-through. But what are the actual factors, the physics, the biology, that can make a high-powered round not exit? Or exit in a way that's, essentially invisible on camera from 200 yards away.
Okay, yeah. We need to break down the mechanics. What actually happens when a very fast projectile hits something dense and complex like the human body, especially the neck? We can probably group this into 4 key variables.
All right, variable 1.
Variable 1, and maybe the most critical here, given where Kirk was hit, is bone and tissue resistance. The human neck it's incredibly complex structurally.
Yeah.
You've got the cervical vertebrae, the spine itself, very dense bone, plus thick muscle groups, major arteries, the jawbone nearby.
Lots of obstacles.
Exactly. When a rifle round hits bone, especially something as solid as the spine, a couple things can happen. It might fragment violently. We'll get to that. Or, crucially, it can expend all its kinetic energy, just shattering that bone. It essentially stops dead.
So the bone acts like a brake, absorbs the energy.
Like an energy sponge, exactly. If the bullet slows down drastically before it even gets through the bone, or if it stops completely within the bone or just behind it, well, there's no exit wound to see. The bullet never made it to the other side with enough force to punch out.
Regardless of how powerful it was initially.
Correct. The resistance it meets dictates the outcome. And that leads right into the second variable, projectile behavior. Rifle rounds, especially high-velocity ones, are designed for flight through air. When they hit the human body, which is mostly water, much denser, they become unstable. They don't just punch straight through like in the movies.
So what do they do instead? Wobble.
They can do 2 main things, yaw and tumble. Yaw is when the bullet starts to turn sideways as it travels through tissue. Tumble is when it flips end over end.
Okay.
Think of like a skipping stone hitting water. It doesn't just keep going straight down, it deflects, it spins. A bullet hitting dense tissue does something similar. Once it starts yawing or tumbling, the surface area hitting the tissue increases massively. This causes devastating internal damage, but it also slows the bullet down much faster, often preventing it from exiting.
More damage inside, less chance of coming out the other side?
Precisely. And related to this is fragmentation. The bullet can actually disintegrate. This is really key.
Break apart.
Yes. The copper jacket can separate from the lead core. This happens because of the intense forces, the rapid deceleration, and the hydraulic shock inside the body. So instead of one solid projectile trying to punch through, you suddenly have a spray of smaller, jagged metal pieces.
Like shrapnel, almost.
Kinda, yeah, scattering through the soft tissues. These smaller fragments often lack the momentum to exit the body at all, Or if they do exit, they might create multiple tiny pinprick-like wounds that are incredibly hard to spot.
And I'd imagine a scatter of tiny fragment exits would be basically invisible on a shaky phone video from a distance.
Completely. Which brings us neatly to variable 3, exit variability. Even if an exit does happen and the bullet doesn't stop or fragment, it's not always that big dramatic hole people expect.
Okay.
If the bullet is tumbling as it exits, the wound might be larger, more ragged. But if it exits relatively stable, maybe after passing through only soft tissue, the hole can be surprisingly small, sometimes barely larger than the bullet's diameter.
Really? That's small.
Absolutely. And in a region like the neck, a small hole like that could be instantly hidden by, say, a shirt collar or the person's hair. Or, perhaps most commonly, it just gets lost in the immediate heavy bleeding that occurs when major blood vessels in the neck are hit. The blood itself obscures the wound from any distant camera.
So the wound might be there, but you just can't see it through the blood and everything else.
Exactly. And then, overlaying all of this, you have variable 4, the recording limits. We're talking about cell phone video, often shot from far away, inherently shaky, maybe zoomed in digitally, which degrades quality further, and then compressed when it's uploaded and shared.
Yeah, the quality drops each time it's shared.
Right. This kind of footage flattens perspective. It loses detail through compression. It simply lacks the resolution needed to capture something that might only be a few millimeters wide, especially amidst blood and rapid movement. A wound that a paramedic or a doctor could clearly see up close is rendered completely invisible on a grainy video clip circulating online.
So that clean, movie-style pass-through wound people were looking for is just one possibility. And scientifically, not seeing an exit is easily explained by a bone impact or fragmentation or just the exit being small and obscured.
That's the critical takeaway. Forensic analysis doesn't rely on interpreting shaky video narratives. It relies on the autopsy. The medical examiner meticulously documents the entry wound, tracks the bullet's path through the body, recovers any fragments, analyzes them, and reconstructs the trajectory in a controlled setting.
Yeah.
Everything else is just speculation, noise.
This really does raise that bigger question, though, the historical pattern. How often has this exact cycle, tragedy, video confusion, forensic debate played out before?
It's depressingly predictable, unfortunately, especially with political assassinations. There seems to be this deep-seated public need for explanations that feel, proportional to the event's magnitude. Simple explanations often feel unsatisfying.
And the drama of a shooting video feeds into that.
Right. So any perceived anomaly, any missing detail, like an exit wound, immediately becomes the hook for alternative theories, often overriding any objective science that comes later.
Let's talk examples. The most famous, the one that basically invented the modern conspiracy theory around wounds, John F. Kennedy, 1963.
Ah, yes. JFK. The absolute textbook case. The confusion surrounding his wounds, particularly the neck wound, is a masterclass in how poor initial evidence handling and communication can fuel decades of public distrust and conspiracy theories.
The core issue was that neck wound, right? Was it entry or exit, front or back?
Exactly. That single point of ambiguity became the linchpin for everything that followed the magic bullet theory, the grassy knoll shooter. All of it stemmed from the inability to definitively settle that question in the public mind early on.
And the problem wasn't necessarily the later forensic conclusion, but the messiness at the start.
Precisely. You had inconsistent reports coming out of Parkland Hospital initially. Some doctors there felt the throat wound looked like an entrance. Then you have the bullet itself, Commission Exhibit 399. Found later on a stretcher in relatively pristine condition after supposedly causing multiple wounds.
The magic bullet.
Right. So even though the official autopsy ultimately concluded the neck wound was an exit wound, resulting from a shot that entered his upper back, the damage was done. The initial confusion, the conflicting accounts, the seemingly improbable bullet behavior, it created this bedrock of doubt. The public narrative couldn't reconcile the messy details with the simple official explanation.
So even if the science eventually gets it right, if that initial story is muddled or delayed, the conspiracy narrative takes root and becomes almost impossible to dislodge.
It gets baked in, yeah. Now contrast that with, say, 1981, the assassination attempt on President Reagan. That offers a really interesting counterpoint about wound visibility.
Reagan was hit with a .22 caliber round, wasn't he? Much smaller.
Much smaller, yes. But the key detail is the path it took. It wasn't a direct hit. The bullet ricocheted off the armored side of the presidential limo.
Ah, okay.
So it was already tumbling, losing energy when it entered his chest,
Yeah.
under his left arm. It punctured his lung and lodged there, very close to his heart, Critically, it did not exit.
No exit wound at all.
None. And the entrance wound itself was apparently very small, very unassuming. So much so that the lack of any dramatic, bleeding, obvious injury initially misled everyone, including his own Secret Service agents.
They didn't realize he was shot.
Not immediately, no. They thought the noise was something else, maybe firecrackers. They shoved him into the car, and initially the assessment was maybe he just cracked a rib from being pushed, or maybe he wasn't hurt at all. It wasn't until he started coughing up bright red, frothy blood inside the limo that they realized the severity.
Wow. So the absence of a big visible wound fooled the actual professionals right there on the scene.
It perfectly illustrates the point. If highly trained Secret Service agents, feet away from the president, could be misled by the lack of a dramatic wound, how much credence should we give to someone analyzing a blurry video clip years later saying, no exit wound equals impossible? The Reagan case completely undermines that argument.
That's a powerful example. And we have a much more recent one too, right? Shinzo Abe in Japan, 2022.
Yes, the assassination of the former Japanese prime minister. That was unique because the weapon was so unconventional. A large, homemade, double-barreled shotgun, essentially.
And it was filmed very clearly from multiple angles.
Extremely clearly, yes. Graphic footage was available almost instantly. But even with that clarity, the moment it hit the internet, the speculation went wild. People were debating if it was one gun or two, how many shots were actually fired, because the sound was strange.
I remember that. The sound didn't sound like typical gunshots to many people.
Exactly. It sounded more like pops or explosions, leading some to think it was multiple smaller rounds, not two distinct shotgun blasts. And people were analyzing the wounds, which, given to the weapon, perhaps looked deceptively small initially in some frames.
So even clear video didn't stop the speculation.
Not at all. It actually fueled different kinds of speculation. It took the official forensic reports, the medical examiner's detailed findings to definitively settle questions about the weapon, the number of shots, the nature of the fatal injuries, and ultimately the charges filed. The pattern holds. Video creates instant questions and often confusion. Science provides slower but reliable answers.
Okay, so let's bring it back to Charlie Kirk. Based on everything we've discussed, the official record from Utah, the science of ballistics, these historical examples, let's tackle those core viral claims head on. How do they stack up against the known facts?
Yeah, let's do a direct comparison. Confront the online narrative with the established evidence.
All right. Claim number one that spread like wildfire. Kirk was shot from behind in a way that disproves the official rooftop shooter narrative.
Okay. The official record from prosecutors based on forensics is that the shooter was on a rooftop, behind and slightly offset from the stage, about 200 yards away. The trajectory confirms this. So the reality check. This claim, bizarrely presented online as a contradiction, actually confirms the official location. It's consistent, not contradictory.
Right, that one seemed based on a misunderstanding. Now, claim two, the big one. No visible exit wound in the video means there must be a cover-up.
Okay. The official record states the weapon was recovered, the suspect identified via DNA. The full autopsy report detailing the wound channel isn't public yet, so the reality check. This claim is pure speculation until that autopsy comes out. And as we've detailed exhaustively, forensics shows exits can be small, hidden by blood or clothing, or entirely absent due to bone impact or bullet fragmentation. So the claim itself is unproven and, frankly, runs counter to established ballistic science.
Okay. Claim three, suggesting more complexity. Multiple shots were fired, maybe a second shooter.
The official record is very firm here. One shot fired. This is based on forensic analysis at the scene and the recovery of one specific bolt-action rifle linked to the suspect and the trajectory. There's no physical evidence presented so far to support multiple shots or multiple weapons. So, reality check. Directly contradicted by the physical evidence cited by prosecutors.
And the last main one, claim four. The shooter wasn't really on the rooftop. Maybe it was someone closer, an inside job.
Again, the official record ties the suspect, Tyler Robinson, directly to that rooftop location. They found the rifle there, along with other forensic evidence linking him to that specific spot. So, reality check. Also directly contradicted by the physical evidence when you lay it out like that.
It really seems like claims 1, 3, and 4 are pretty clearly refuted by the physical evidence presented so far. The persistence of the whole theory seems to hinge almost entirely on claim 2, the exit wound, because it's the only one where there's still technically an information gap until the autopsy is fully public.
Exactly. And that ambiguity around the exit wound taps directly into that pre-existing distrust and the public's expectation mismatch we talked about.
So if we zoom out again, why? Why do these claims, especially the visually ambiguous ones like the exit wound, spread so much faster, so much wider than the more cautious, detailed, but maybe less exciting forensic explanations? What's the psychology?
What really drills down to the psychology of conspiracy theories in our current digital age, combined with, let's be honest, a significant erosion of trust in institutions.
Okay.
First, humans are hardwired as pattern-seeking animals. We crave order, we look for meaning, especially in chaotic, frightening events. A sudden, violent political assassination is maximum chaos. So when there's a perceived missing piece, like an exit wound, you expect to see, but the brain doesn't easily accept its complicated or video limitations. Instead, it can latch onto that abscess as a sign.
A clue that the simple story isn't the whole story.
Precisely. It feels like uncovering something hidden. It imposes a kind of order, albeit a conspiratorial one, onto the chaos. And this pattern-seeking bumps right up against widespread distrust.
Distrust of government, media, law enforcement.
Yeah. Many people start with the assumption that official accounts, especially in politically charged events, are likely incomplete, misleading, or outright false. History provides fuel for this too. We know cover-ups have happened. So the historical precedent of assassinations like JFK, MLK, RFK, all of which spawned enduring conspiracy theories, makes people primed to expect hidden complexity. If the official story sounds too simple, one shooter, one bullet, suspicion arises automatically.
And then social media pours fuel on that fire.
It's the perfect accelerant. You have powerful social media incentives, provocative claims, cover-up, second shooter, inside job are inherently more attention-grabbing. They generate clicks, shares, comments, outrage. Algorithms often prioritize this kind of high-engagement, emotionally charged content over drier, nuanced, factual explanations that require more effort to digest.
So the speculation literally travels faster and further than the forensic facts.
Always. Speed favors speculation. Caution favors facts, but facts move slower.
It feels like Kirk's death instantly became this sort of political Rorschach test. What people saw in those grainy videos said more about their own beliefs than about the event itself.
I think that's a very apt description. If we step back and look impartially, the reactions were incredibly polarized along existing political lines. For many on the right, his death immediately fit a narrative of persecution, of martyrdom for their cause. For many on the left, it was the violent end of a figure they saw as deeply divisive and damaging. And then, layered on top, you have the conspiracy community who simply see a puzzle to be solved, often detached from the specific politics, just focused on exposing the hidden truth.
And this polarized landscape must have influenced how different media outlets covered it, creating even more fragmentation.
Oh, absolutely. We saw a stark demonstration of media fragmentation. Mainstream news organizations, the AP, the Wall Street Journal, networks, they generally reported the official findings, acknowledged the videos existed, but were very cautious. They typically avoided broadcasting the most graphic frames and explicitly refused to amplify unsubstantiated speculation. They waited for official confirmation.
Holding the line, basically.
Right. But in the parallel universe of independent blogs, forums, certain YouTube channels, Rumble, etc., they seized on every ambiguity. Frame-by-frame breakdowns of blurry footage, speculation presented as analysis, theories given equal or even greater weight than official statements.
So the public gets these two competing realities presented simultaneously, the cautious, fact-based one and the much more visually dramatic, speculative one.
Exactly. And that brings us to the critical stakes here. This isn't just an academic debate about ballistics or media studies. It matters deeply because a government's ability to establish and maintain credibility, especially during a national trauma, is fundamental. It's about social trust, rule of law.
Right.
If speculation and conspiracy theories are allowed to completely dominate the narrative before the official, evidence-based account can be fully presented and absorbed, if that viral video speed fundamentally outruns the speed of forensic truth, then public acceptance of the official findings becomes incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible, for a significant portion of the population, regardless of what the autopsy eventually shows.
So everything really does seem to hinge on that upcoming Utah medical examiner's autopsy report.
It's absolutely the pivotal moment. If that report is released and it's thorough, clear, unambiguous, if it details the entry wound, precisely documents the bullet's track, identifies any recovered fragments, and provides a clear, scientifically sound explanation for the nature of the exit or lack thereof, perhaps citing bone impact or fragmentation,
then it might quell some of the speculation.
it stands the best chance, yes. A clear, definitive, transparent report could provide the factual anchor needed to counter the theories, at least for those willing to engage with the evidence.
But the flip side, if details are withheld, if the report seems inconsistent or its release gets significantly delayed,
then the conspiracy narratives will likely just solidify and grow exponentially. History, particularly with JFK, shows us that once those seeds of doubt are firmly planted in the public mind, fueled by perceived inconsistencies or lack of transparency, no amount of subsequent evidence seems able to fully root them out, especially when political motivations and deep distrust are already in play.
So, wrapping this up, our final thought for you, the listener. The core takeaway seems clear. The truth, the actual forensic facts, must await the science. Those viral videos, however compelling or disturbing they seem, simply cannot replace meticulous ballistic analysis and autopsy findings.
Right. The details of Charlie Kirk's death are currently contested territory in the public square, largely because of this collision between human expectation, that ingrained Hollywood image of a bullet wound, and the unavoidable information gap created by the slow, careful process of a major investigation.
And what's really fascinating, maybe the key challenge for all of us now, is recognizing that the most responsible position is often the least satisfying emotionally. It means acknowledging the questions raised by things like the video, sure, but having the patience to wait for the verifiable science.
That's the crux of it. We live in an era where the speed of speculation, thanks to viral media, is fundamentally mismatched with the speed of forensic truth. That gap, that period between the event and the official findings, is the fertile ground where conspiracy theories are born and thrive.
So what does this all mean for you? It means cultivating a critical awareness of information velocity. When you encounter news, especially shocking, emotionally charged news based on ambiguous visuals, ask yourself, is this claim instantaneous? Is it designed to provoke? Is the measured evidence-based response still pending? If so, recognize you're in that temporal gap.
A gap often filled deliberately with conjecture, not fact.
Be aware of that gap. That's our deep dive for today. Thank you for joining us.
In the heart of this nation, under skies so blue, there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true. From the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe. Conservative values in our souls, they're interweaved. With courage and with honor, we'll hold our ground for freedom, for tradition. In this land we